Hi, my name is Caroline Poland, and I'm the founder and CEO of Poland and Associates Consulting. And today I want to do a video on compassion fatigue and secondary traumatic stress, really speaking to those of you who might be listening who are people helpers or on the front lines right now during this difficult and uncertain time with COVID-19. So I have a few strategies for you all in navigating this world and dealing with compassion fatigue and secondary traumatic stress, both to be proactive in building up the resiliency against those, and once we're there, how to begin to walk ourselves out of that experience. And the first one is to just be a very curious noticer and observer of you. I have talked about this in other videos, and I'll link that below. But again, we can't change what we don't know. And so if we're not observing ourselves and noticing our thoughts and our feelings, our body reactions, our body sensations, then it's very hard to change the input in that. It's hard to know when we need to emotionally regulate ourselves or how we need to ground ourselves. But we also can miss the fact that we're beginning to go down this road in the first place. And so one of my recommendations is to go regularly take the Professional Quality of Life scale. And this scale will give you 4 different scores: compassion satisfaction, compassion fatigue, burnout, and secondary traumatic stress. And once you're able to gauge where you're currently at, again, you can be very proactive in creating some steps and some strategies for yourself to get out of that experience or to get back to a healthier space that you would like to engage in. My second strategy is that of emotionally regulating yourself. So again, I talked a little bit about the nervous system, and once we hit into fight or flight and that sympathetic nervous system regulates, we go back into that survival part of our brain, and our prefrontal cortex goes offline, and our ability to regulate and think very thoughtfully, that executive function goes offline. And so we want to stay in our parasympathetic nervous system, and part of how we're doing that is learning to be in a relaxed body. And the more that we can confront that threat or that traumatic material in a relaxed body, the more that we're safeguarding ourselves against developing compassion fatigue, burnout, or secondary traumatic stress. And so doing some of those really simple things like sensory grounding is helpful, or having a secure place or secure image to go back to while you're at work, or a calm place that you can envision while maybe doing some meditation or guided imagery when you get home from work would be really important. Going on a walk or biking, because it engages both sides of our body, and therefore helps to regulate our nervous system and smooth out the flow of information between our left and right hemisphere, therefore bringing our logical brain and our emotion and sensory brain together in taking information. Those things are actually really helpful too. So doing some mindfulness activities, yoga, meditation, things like that can be really helpful. My third strategy is to make sure that you have a healthy support system in your life. Who's your tribe? Who are the people who are walking alongside of you? The reality is that we cannot do life alone. We're not meant to. Our nervous systems are built to be in relationship with other people. We are built for community. And so we need other people to bear witness to the things that we have had to witness and hear. And so whether that is sharing with a spouse or a partner or a friend, a pastor, or for confidential information, a counselor or social worker. These are all great people that can come alongside and be your tribe. Again, that is not a failing on your part that you need other people. It is part of being human that we are meant to walk alongside other people in our life. And so you need other people involved in your life too to help be that support system for you. My fourth strategy is to maintain healthy boundaries. Boundaries simply mean that I am responsible for my own thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions, and responsibilities that I have chosen to take on. And the things outside of those things are not my responsibility. And so sometimes we hit secondary traumatic stress or burnout and compassion fatigue simply because we are focusing so much on the things outside of our boundaries that we're missing the things that we can actually control, which is inside of our boundaries. Boundaries are just a simple, intentional saying yes and no to things in our life in order to keep us healthy. And the more that we're that curious noticer of ourselves and of our bodies, we're able to set those healthy boundaries or healthy limits for ourselves so that we don't overextend ourselves and push us further into compassion fatigue. My fifth basic strategy is just to do those basic self-care things that we know. And I know that that sounds really simple, but things like a healthy sleep rhythm or healthy eating, just being out in nature. We respond to nature fundamentally differently than we respond to other things. And so getting out in nature and really trying to absorb that and engage with that in the present moment, it's a protective factor in life. Practicing gratitude, again, that doesn't change the reality of the hard things that we're experiencing, but it widens our reality to include other things besides just those hard things that we're witnessing, seeing, or experiencing, or having to confront. So again, there are plenty more strategies, but these are some basic strategies that you can do right now in the middle of the uncertain and unknown situations, the grief and loss and trauma that we're experiencing right now, so that you can build some resiliency and provide a protective layer to your life to help avoid going down the road of compassion fatigue. So here are a few takeaways for you from this conversation. First of all, compassion fatigue, burnout, secondary traumatic stress is really just the cost of caring. It's not a failing on your part. If you're here at this point where you're experiencing burnout, you're experiencing secondary traumatic stress, you're experiencing compassion fatigue, you haven't done something wrong. This doesn't need to be something that you're ashamed of. This is not a weakness or a failing on your part. It means you're an empathetic person, and it just comes alongside being in a people helping profession. And just because it is the cost of caring doesn't mean that we're stuck there. There are things that you can do about it today to help walk yourself down a different road and have a different experience. We can learn how to regulate our nervous systems differently to have that different level of emotional regulation, to provide balance in a healthy way between our amygdala, where fight or flight kicks in, and our prefrontal cortex, where we can regulate our parasympathetic nervous system a little bit more. We can do those things that lead to healthier outcomes in our life. And then I want to remind you to invite people in. You're not meant to do life alone. And so we want to bring people alongside of us and walk that journey alone. People can see things in our life sometimes differently than we can. They can be a mirror or reflect things back to us. And again, we want that to be safe and healthy people, just because some of the unsafe or unwell people are going to reflect things back that just are not quite reality. And so we want people who can reflect back the hard realities of our life to us in a healthy way. So again, if you're experiencing these things, I want you to know that there's hope. You don't have to sit and deal with this alone and in shame. You haven't done anything wrong. It's the nature of being an empathetic, caring, compassionate person, but there are ways forward. So the more you can be proactive about these things, that will keep you more in compassion satisfaction. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Pullen and Associates, and I will be continuing to put out videos on mental health and wellness during this time.